Hi, this is Roger Moore, and you're listening to James Bond Radio.
Hello and welcome to James Bond Radio, the 30 days of No Time to Die. Today we're going to be talking about our final thoughts of the entire film, a conclusion summary, if you will, before we return next week with even more No Time to Die action. Joining me as always is Mr. Chris Wright. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing all right, buddy. You
Very
good?
Nice. I'm good as well, man.
Do you know what I miss?
Go on, what do you miss?
Say hello, Chris. I missed that.
Oh,
what's happened to that?
All right. My name's Tom Sears, and I'm joined as always by my good buddy Chris Wright. Say hello, Chris.
Hello, Chris.
There it is. It's like
man,
old
I've not
times,
done
mate.
that for years.
Yeah. How about that?
I know.
So, man,
Yes.
how are you feeling? We've got through the whole film now, start to finish. We've gone through in granular detail. We've gone super deep on the whole thing. How are you feeling? Do you feel like you've learned something more about the film? Do you still feel like there's more to be learned? How are you feeling?
Well, I've certainly learned a shitload about the film. It's very, very layered. There's a lot of stuff in here. And do you know, it's interesting because we're doing this, obviously we're going off our memory. I did manage to sneak in a notepad and pen and take a couple of notes on one of the screenings, but it's mainly going from memory. So we're never going to catch everything. And what is cool is that within the community, JBR family, people have spotted things. Like there'll be someone that spotted something, someone that spotted something else, which no one else has, or maybe only a couple. And it's pulling all of that together just to see how detailed the film is in any aspect you can think of. And I think that's what's really great. And I'm sure when we get to the 90-second listener reviews, we're just going to hear a lot of things which maybe people, obviously there are going to be things that everyone agrees on or things that you've heard before, but I think there'll also be a couple of little nuggets that people have spotted or mentioned, which not everyone does. So I do like that whole community of bringing everyone together, sort of a massive load of intelligence, which is central, of everyone put together to talk through the film.
Yeah, man. I think this film, more than any other Bond film, it inspires conversation, doesn't it? There's a lot to talk about. There really is. So what I thought we'd do today, man, is just sort of think about No Time to Die, where it sits in the run of Daniel's films, where it sits within the grand scheme of things. Now, a lot of things we're probably going to say, well, it's too early to tell. Like, how do you rank them? Don't know yet. I'll just say that out of the gate. I don't know
Some
where it
people
sits.
can.
Some
straight
people can,
away.
right down the bottom for a lot of people. But it's for me. If you said rank me all your Daniel films, right? I don't know where it sits yet. I really don't. I need some time to pass, and then I can answer that question. So there's going to be a fair bit of that, I would imagine. Go on, you got something.
At the time of recording, are you currently on 2 or 3 views?
2 views at the moment.
Okay, so that I'd recommend get another one in.
Yeah,
that will help. Obviously, at the moment I've done 5. I've got to definitely do at least 1, probably 2 more before it's out the cinema, I think.
Dude, I really want to do more. I usually shoot for 007 viewings, obviously.
Yeah.
Newborn
tricky
baby
times.
Man, little bug is getting in the way of my bondage. So it's a tricky one.
I have to say, I absolutely thought it's so adorable, man. When you put up the passport photos of Charlie, I thought he looked the businessman. He looks so cute. He's a little angel. And it was quite funny because I did see someone comment that it was like his facial sort of change through the photos were like the emotional run through watching No Time to Die. I'm starting off quite happy and cheery, getting towards really sad at the end.
Yeah, God bless him. Yeah, man. So yeah, I'm hoping to get the 3rd in very, very soon. But
cool.
I definitely, I'm gonna.
Has Catherine seen it yet?
Not yet. No. So yeah, that's because obviously we can't leave them at home. We can't just stick them in a box.
You can't leave them with Peanut. No, not Peanut. Was it Pop? No. Oh, what is your dog's name? I've forgotten.
Oh, Pippa.
Pippa.
Yeah.
Pippa. Yeah, you can't leave them 2 together.
So, we can't do that. So yeah, so we've been trying to find a showing that is either has nobody else in it or very few other people in it, because I can't put people through that if he starts making a noise.
Did they do such a thing as kid-friendly showing? I know it's a Bond film. I know it's a 12A, so it's not like kid-friendly, but in terms of baby-friendly viewings.
Yeah,
is that
there
such
is.
a thing?
I think there is a place in Bristol, which is
Right, that's cool.
about
Yeah.
half an hour away from me, I suppose, which we could potentially do. But my missus is like, she doesn't want to do that because they have the lights up. You've got 30 babies in there all screaming and shouting, and it's like, I don't want that either. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
you want to be the only one with a baby, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, the screening room to ourselves, preferably. But yeah, so hopefully we can get a third one in.
Nice.
So absolutely, I'm gonna try and shoot for as many as I can, and get as close to 7. But obviously, it's a bit of a different ball game for me at this point. So, Chris, right, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Right, can you rank No Time to Die with the Daniel films, or are you like me where you can't do it just yet?
Daniel, yes. Overall, no.
Ooh.
Pre-titles, yes.
All right, give it to me then. Where is in the Daniel run? Where does it sit for you?
For me, very, very clearly, second position.
Wow.
I think Casino Royale. At one point, I thought, "Oh God, is it level with Casino?"
Yeah.
Like the first viewing, I'm taking that out of the equation because obviously it's just it didn't too much to take in and everything. Second viewing, thought it was masterpiece. Third viewing. Really, really enjoyed it, and ever since then, I've really, really enjoyed it. For me, I think Casino Royale. At one point, I thought, is it the same? Because, and then I'm like, well, no. I think Casino Royale for me is untouchable, particularly within the Daniels. Anyway, it's just too good. But compared to Skyfall, compared to Quantum, compared to Spectre, No Time to Die sits way above those. I'd put Casino at the top, No Time to Die second. My third, I think, is probably Skyfall, and I'm really undecided about the bottom. Like, it's so much so that it's just that final third. I just think Spectre's a wasted opportunity. If you're talking about the first 2/3 of the film, obviously I put Spectre well ahead of Quantum. It's just that final third that bugs the shit out of me. So I'm probably going to put Quantum above Spectre.
You're going to put Quantum above Spectre?
Yeah.
Paul Jameson is going to be jumping up and down for joy at that. Well, probably not for joy, but he's
No.
going to raise an eyebrow at that.
Yeah.
At least it's not on the bottom. Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
I'd
So
say
for me, No Time to Die, clearly second place.
So for me, I can't tell you where No Time to Die slots in yet, but it's quite different. It's going to go Casino, Spectre, Skyfall, Quantum at this point. Don't know where No Time to Die slots into that little sequence there.
Interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I tell you one thing though, for me, the pre-titles is now my favourite.
Is it?
Yeah, because the ones that I really loved are Octopussy and The Living Daylights. They're my two favourite. They're brilliant. Obviously, everyone goes on about Spy Love Me, which is good. Goldfinger, I think, is great. But it's always been Live and Let Die and Octopussy for me. But I think there's just so much in No Time to Die. I think the opening snow sequence.
What was the two? You said Live and Let Die and Octopussy.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. The Living Daylights and Octopussy. Are my two go-to pre-titles. But that snow sequence, that horror sequence, when Madeline gets up and shoots him as well, and that whole lake, I think is incredible. Matera, I think, is one of the most beautiful bits in any Bond film. The way it's shot, I think it's amazing. I think the action is superb. The Vesper grave, everything like that, and it's just the bit where they're sitting in the car and the windows are getting pounded. For some reason, it's one of my favourite bits in the whole series. I just absolutely adore that moment.
Yeah, I think it's got to be the number one DB5 moment, isn't it? Really, across the whole series, that is a belter of a chase for sure. Yeah, man. Interesting. Yeah, I in the grand scheme, I think Living Daylights is the winner.
That's
all
amazing.
The pre-title sequences.
That is amazing.
And again, the perfect way to introduce a new Bond. 100%. You get all those little Bondian flavors in there just to establish that this is the James Bond we all know and love. Beautifully done, amazing music, the whole package. This is a bit of a different beast, isn't it? There's a lot going on, but man, that car chase is brilliant, isn't it? That's I mean, okay, so let's talk car chases then. We need old sharp thing on the blower, don't we? But talking car chases, I would have said the Quantum car chase was Daniel's finest car chase. Shame about the editing, obviously, as most of us say, but that's a brutal breakneck car chase. This one, what do you think? Which wins for you?
Well, this one's more entertaining, I think, just because you've got the added benefit of the gadgets. You've got if you include that bit where the where they're shooting the windows, for me, that it wins outright. If it's purely based on the sort of stunts involved, obviously you've got the donuts, the drifting, you've got the driving through the tight alleyways and stuff like that, which is very cool. I think I suppose in terms of technical point of view, the Quantum one I'd class as better, just because of how intricate that like it needed to be with how fast it was and all the smashes and everything. I would have liked a little bit more time on the edit in that one, but it's intense and it's a hardcore chase. But overall, I prefer the No Time to Die one, just because there's so much more going on with it.
I think, man, it's tough to say, but I think it has to, I think it has to win. I think for me, No Time to Die, I think that one comes out on top for me as more of a Bondian car chase as well, because you get all the glory and the majesty of the DB5. That's a beautiful thing. All right, songs. Give me, how does No Time to Die sit in the Daniel pantheon for you, man? Where does it go? I'll tell you, I'm going to lead the way. I'll tell you where it sits for me this time, and then
right.
you can tell me yours afterwards.
Sounds good.
You know, My Name comes in the top, right? I do get, you see the odd person every now and then say they don't like that because it's a bit too cock rocky. Do you know what I mean? Mainstream radio rock, and I do get that flavor, and that was my initial reaction to it. Was like, oh,
it's so different, wasn't it? So different,
yeah. But over time, I have grown to adore that song. Those lyrics are amazing. Love it. Pure masculine Bond song. Balls out rock and roll. Love that. That comes in at number 1 for me, right? Undisputed champion. I would say Skyfall comes in at number 2.
What is it about Skyfall that you like?
Well, I think Skyfall for me is a nice classic in the way that you used to have like a Shirley Bassey or somebody like that singing a song. I feel like Adele is the not that Shirley was, but I feel like Adele is almost like the voice of her generation, isn't she? In 50 years' time, people will still be talking about Adele. And I think it's like a classic, obviously it's down tempo and all the rest of it, but I think that one almost sets the template for the last 2 as well. Do you know what I mean? It's like that one was the sort of the high watermark, I think, in terms of Bond songs for the recent run of films. So Skyfall comes in at number 2. Number 3 is Jack White and Alicia Keys, Another Way to Die. Then the last 2, I'm like you with Spectre and Quantum. I don't know about the last 2. I think Writings on the Wall pips it for me, because I really do like that orchestral. I do think the song is good. I think, like I've said many times before, I think it's the performance of Sam Smith that's jarring for a lot of people. I think if you'd have had a woman sing it. Is it his
performance, or like, so say no one actually knew who was singing it, they only heard it.
Yeah.
And in their mind, it could have been a woman that was singing it. Would that have been fine? Is it the fact he's a dude, or is his performance actually not as good?
I think what it is, I don't even think it's because he's a dude. I think what it is he's got a very unique kind of voice, isn't he? And I think that mixture of how do I live in it just doesn't feel like when you look at the cock rock of You Know My Name, and then you look at the sort of old school bondiness of Skyfall, say, it's sort of, I don't know, it's a bit jarring for me, that voice. And I think it's, if you take a band and you put a new singer in it, it's kind of jarring for everybody, even if you're singing the same songs. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think it's that
unless
kind
you're
of voice. Unless you're AC/DC, absolutely. But it's kind of jarring. And I think ultimately, especially when you hear like Cue the Music Play It, which obviously has a lady singing it, that to me is 100% Bond when you hear that. And I think I think it's primarily his voice and performance that's jarring for a lot of people. And for me, I think overall, I like the song. I think a woman should have sung it perhaps, and that would have been a classic Bond tune,
And what about Billie Eilish and No Time to Die then?
Lyrics fit. I think it's quite safe. I think it's a bit Bond by the numbersy. Like we said before, I think she's probably listened to Skyfall and Sam Smith and gone, okay, I'll do something roughly like that. And that's what we've got. Not that it's a bad song. It does the job. I feel like we could have, I would have liked to have seen something. in the amount that this film tries new shit, I would have liked to have seen the song do the same.
Yeah.
Rather
What
than,
sort of vibe do you think?
it would have had to have been mournful. I think you couldn't have had a "You Know My Name" or in Another Way to Die up tempo rocking. It wouldn't be right. But yeah, I guess, I don't know. Maybe it is the perfect song for the film. I don't know. It's not a bad song, but it's just based on what's come before the previous two entries. I feel like it's just a bit by the numbersy for me. You know, if the previous two songs hadn't come out and this had been the third film or something, maybe I'd love it. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, firstly, I think Daniel's films have all got decent songs. Like, I think he's probably the Bond actor that's had like a real consistently decent songs, because I think most of the others have one or two that I'm not overly sure about. I'm the same with you. You Know My Name definitely first. For me, I'd put Another Way to Die second. I really enjoy that. I
It's
know
a close one for me, that Skyfall and Another Way to Die.
I know loads of people slag it off, but I really enjoy it. I can't see how people don't like it. I know you mentioned the Alicia Keys bit before, and I guess there is that. And then I'd go Skyfall, definitely. I think that gives me the shiver when I listen to Skyfall. I get the old Bond shiver, get my hair standing up, and I'm like, oh, so good. Yeah. That's an incredible song, to be fair. And then the other two, like I said to you previously, I was going to listen to No Time to Die sort of back to back 30 times. I haven't quite done that, but I've certainly listened to it a lot more since we last spoke. Probably heard it maybe 15 times, something like that. And I think it suits the title really well. I think, like you said, it had to be that sort of mournful vibe to go with this type of film. I think the lyrics were really good, but I probably just wanted a bit more out of it. I still don't know which one I prefer between the two. I can't say at the moment. Like before, I think I put put Writings on the Wall slightly higher because I hadn't listened to No Time to Die as much. But between the two of them, it's hard for me to choose. I'm going to put them at level pegging at the moment. But both are quite a bit below the other three for me.
All right, nicely done.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we'll need to explore the actual score in an episode, and that's probably going to come up next week. But talk to me about your Hans Zimmer feelings, Chris. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, for me, I think there are some tracks that definitely stay. I think the high impact sort of energy bit in the action scenes, obviously it's used in the pre-titles. I think it's used. Is it used in the car chase? And it's definitely used at the end as well. It's like dun 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 dun. Or is it something like that? I can't remember. Maybe I'll go completely off. But anyway. No, I mean, that's probably not it. But I know the one that I mean. It's a really like heavy beat, action beat going. And I really like that. I've really enjoyed the music playing when Safin is in his poison garden with Mathilde and Madeline. I think that has an underlying menace to it, which is really nice. I really like that. And also the music cue, I don't know if it's on the final soundtrack or not, I'll double check, but the scene where Bond is with M, where M tells Bond he's irrelevant and they have their proper Barney and Bond walks out, that is so dark. There's that music cue, really ominous, and I just think that's brilliant. That's a really nice bit of music during that scene. I must admit, outside of that, there's the Cuba scene. I love the Cuba chase. That's got that flavor, the sort of Cuban, Latin American style flavor going on, and it's high energetic, but it's fun. It obviously. Paloma, that whole scene is a lot of fun, and I think that really reflects that. So the Cuba chase music I really enjoy. I have to admit as well, I'm a big fan of what they did with the Majesty's theme, the slow, subtle version of the Majesty's theme with the M and Bond scene. I know you're not a fan, and quite a few people weren't sure of it. Although equally, I've heard a lot of people that really enjoyed it. So I'm a big fan of that. The rest, off the top of my head, it's a bit. I'd need to listen to it a lot more for it to be ingrained. It's not quite there yet. It's like the Cuba one, I can hear it and I play the scene. The Majesty's the same, and and there's one or two other cues that really I need to listen to more. Overall, I would say I prefer it to the Spectre soundtrack, definitely. I think the Skyfall one has some bangers in there, but I think overall this one I prefer to that as well, I think.
All right.
Yeah. What about you? Not sure.
It's a tricky one for me, man, because I tell you what I do, and I imagine a lot of other Bond fans that are like it as well, is I always go, fuck, what I would give to hear a John Barry take on this.
It's tricky. That's never going to happen though, mate.
Of course it's not. No, and that's the thing. And in the back of your mind, the tricky part about it is John Barry's no longer with us, and that's never going to happen. And like you say, but when you've been spoiled for loads and loads of Bond films where they're all so brilliant, it's difficult to kind of forget about that. Do you know what I mean? And not that we should forget about it, but it's difficult for that to not be a part of the conversation whenever you've got a new Bond film, you know? And for me, I find the Thomas Newman ones quite underwhelming, a bit generic, and I've got to say, I kind of put this one in the same box, you know?
Are there any that stand out?
Well, so for me, when I say the Thomas Newman ones, like there's some definite pieces on the Thomas Newman ones that I really like Chimera on Skyfall is a standout track for me.
That's
obviously
one,
the pre-titles one in Spectre is another huge standout for me, and I love those. With this one, there isn't a piece that really stands out, and I know obviously Final Ascent is a strong one to come up at the end there, but man, I will be totally honest, I know a lot of people really like this score, but for me it just sounds like any other film, really. There isn't that. Bond music was such a special thing for so long, whereby the score was almost a film all in itself. You know, you just put it in your ears and you can see every moment of every scene that you hear that music in. Whereas for me, I feel like you could have pulled these out of Mission Impossible or anywhere else, you know. I would have always could have done with a lot more Bond theme. We did get it a little bit, I suppose, didn't we? But yeah, to me, it's quite just run of the mill music for an action film rather than a Bond score. You know, you look at Tomorrow Never Dies, you look at, you know, Arnold's scores for the early Daniels and stuff. For me, that is absolute head and shoulders, leagues above what Hans Zimmer did and what Thomas Newman did. It's not even leagues above. It's a whole different ball game. It's a whole different sport, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, I fully expected it would be like that for me. So it's not like I'm disappointed because I was expecting something magical for my personal taste, but yeah, I'm sort of underwhelmed, and I kind of expected that I would be. For me, it's like, I feel like Hans Zimmer trades on the name rather than actually the quality of the music. I know that's a very strong statement, but it's, you know, very rhythmical, drum loops all going off all over the place, but I can't sing you a single melody from that score. And yeah, it's just not there for me. And I keep going back to it, but man, if John Barry was behind this, we wouldn't have got We Have All the Time in the World in the score. He'd have written a banging tune to go over that section. There would have been something else to go there. And it's like, it's obviously we're never going to hear it, but that's what I would want. I would want somebody to do that. Whether with time that We Have All the Time in the World thing changes for me, and I'm like, do you know what? It's great. The whole film is meant to be like a call and answer to Majesty's, the other side of the same coin. Maybe it's that, and it will grow on me in time. But I don't know. I do feel like that is perhaps not earned enough for me, in terms of that phrase. I don't know. I just feel it belongs to a different film. We should have had something else. I don't know. I'm a bit down on the score. Personally.
Oh, mate, I'm sorry to hear that. I that one you mentioned, the Final Ascent, I forgot to mention that. I think that's a fantastic track. I think it's very emotional. It pulls the heartstrings when it's meant to, like the sort of slow build up. I'm a big fan of that song. I think I'm glad I didn't listen to anything pre pre-watching it, because I think you're listening to that piece of music, you know something not very nice is going to happen, something not very good is going to happen. But the final ascent, I think, is a great piece. So yeah, I think overall there's a lot for me that I really enjoy. There's also a lot that the other thing we've got to consider is like some of the films we've watched 100 times, we've listened to that music 1,000 times.
Sure.
You know, it's ingrained a lot more than others, but you're definitely onto something in terms of that whole sort of rhythmic style. And I agree, it's not too dissimilar to what I thought we were going to get with Hans Zimmer. I would like to see something with a bit more going on. Whoever scores the next one. I
want to see a complete fresh start.
Giacchino maybe or something.
Yeah, that is either him or Arnold.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel as much as I'd like to see another Arnold, it would be nice to see some fresh blood. Have a.
Yeah, I think
go.
so.
I think Michael Giacchino would be a perfect choice.
He'd be
That
great.
Incredible soundtrack. Is
so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, man. So, a couple more questions for you before we wrap it up, man.
Oh, I've got one for you first.
Okay, go on then. After you.
Title sequence. How where does that rank amongst the Daniels for you? Is that a hard one to say? It's tricky because I know you've only seen it twice, so it is a bit tricky.
Yeah,
maybe.
I would say, all right, Casino number 1.
Yeah.
I would say I find it difficult to choose between Skyfall and Spectre.
Yeah.
I do
but
like
they'd be your
Spectre
2 and
visuals.
3.
Yeah, they'd be my 2 and 3. I think maybe Spectre's in 2.
Yeah.
Skyfall in 3. No Time to Die 4. Quantum 5.
Quantum 5. Yeah.
How about you?
Not too dissimilar. I'd go Casino first. I'd go Skyfall second for me. Probably Spectre, then No Time to Die, and then Quantum.
Yeah,
I think.
Right, nice. So, a couple of questions then.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? Right?
I love it when you start that. It's always going to be something amazing. Right, let's go.
There's a lot of pressure to me live up to now. How about this? Right, Paloma. We love her. Right.
Yeah.
Let's just put Paloma to one side for a moment. Okay.
Okay.
What if that gun battle sequence in Cuba was Bond and Felix side by side? Do you think that would have given more weight to Felix's death? Do you think that would have given more energy to their relationship? I had a brother once, his name was Felix Leiter. Do you think we needed, maybe not the Cuba sequence, maybe at some point in Daniel's run, we needed to see Bond and Felix side by side on a mission in an action sequence like that? Because ultimately, we only ever see Felix in a sort of, in a non-action sort of role, don't we? What do you think about that?
I think that's a incredibly good point. I think we definitely could have seen, would have been good to see Felix and Bond in a bit of an action scene. Like the Cuba scene might have even been possible to have him in it anyway, even with Paloma. Like the whole thing with Bond going to meet Paloma could be going ahead, and Felix could be almost overseeing it, but then somehow gets pulled into the action. And then maybe there's a point where Felix kind of saves Bond, and then Bond saves Felix, and then Paloma saves Felix, or something like that. Or it doesn't just have to be 2. They could. It would have taken a lot of coordination, but they could have done something with 3. Obviously, you got Nomi in there as well, so I don't know if that would get a bit too complicated. But I think seeing them together in some sort of action thing would be great, because in terms of the Jeffrey Leiter Bond, obviously Casino, there's a lot of sitting around and stuff like that. Like Quantum, it wasn't too different, really, was it? Sitting on a plane and then stuff, and then so we haven't really seen that. Obviously, License to Kill, there was a bit of action going on, and Thunderball, Van Nutten, his Leiter, did quite a lot of the action and stuff. So maybe that would have helped the Felix death, because the Felix death is strange, isn't it? I know some people were really gutted with the way it happened. Some people were gutted that he died, and some people thought it was all right. Obviously, you got the whole Vesper thing going on, but maybe there needed to be more. But then, alternatively, you mentioned the whole thing about if the way that he was killed by Ash was a bit more cruel, sadistic, then that would have, jacked up.
Ash more.
exactly, which in turn would have, you would have your sort of hope for Leiter to survive would have been higher as well. So interesting point though. What made you think of that?
Well, it's one of those things where the thought had occurred to me that there's that line of, I had a brother once, his name was Felix Leiter, and it's like, I don't know whether we really feel that relationship. Do you know what I mean? Whether that they're brothers in arms. Do you know what I mean? Because we've never seen them do something together like that. It's almost like he's a random contact in the field a little bit. They have a bit of interaction, then Bombarkers often does his thing. You've never really seen them sort of back to back together doing the business, and I think that was perhaps a missed opportunity, and I definitely think Jeffrey Wright could have definitely pulled it off. He's the sort of Felix I could see out there, gun in hand, doing some business.
What about if that whole scene on the boat with Ash and Bond and Felix was expanded a bit, so that before Ash shot Felix, there was a bit of a tussle going on, and Ash was kind of fighting Felix and Bond as well, and there was a bit more going on before he shot him, or however else he did it. That might have,
maybe, I think. I mean, I suppose I'm talking in terms of the whole of Daniel's run. It would have been nicer to see, see that happen in, I don't know, Skyfall or something, or whatever. But it's food for thought nonetheless. So now, yesterday you had a question from me which I rudely interrupted about the ending with the death of Bond with multiple options.
Yes.
So talk to me about that.
Okay, so here are your options. Option one, it ends as it is, in relation to obviously the missile strike. It happens. Bond climbs out the silo, tells Madeline he loves her. Obviously says that he's not going to make it, and then obviously Madeline says, "Oh, she does have your eyes. I know, I know." Missiles come down. Okay, up in smoke. There we go. Option one. Option two is a similar thing, but we don't actually see Bond die. So the missiles strike, but we don't see them strike Bond. So we just see maybe a missile silo, but Bond isn't there. He could have got off the island. We don't know. So it's up to interpretation. Did he manage to get off the island? Did he have a change of heart? Who knows? Option C, or option 3, is that he definitely gets away. He manages to get off the island. You think potentially, you could even think that he didn't, but then it cuts to him and he's in the water. Maybe
in his
he's just
yellow dinghy,
exactly, or whatever it is, and he goes across to Madeline and Mathilde, but with that, he wouldn't be able to do that, would he? Because of the thing. But maybe he somehow survives, and then it's up to you to determine, okay, well, how is he going to spend the rest of his life knowing that he can't be with either? What would you say to that?
Well, I imagine Daniel had one very definite ending in mind, and he would not have accepted anything. He definitely wanted Bond to visibly die in this film. I think it's brave, man. I think the nearest comparison we have here is to Christian Bale's Batman trilogy, right? It's almost like Bond and Batman Begins. It's almost Bond Begins, isn't it? Really, and it's those two series have kind of followed a similar kind of style and path, isn't it? Yeah. It's taking Bond back to the roots, took Batman back to the roots. You went obviously more movies for Bond, but and you had almost like the Dark Knight Rises ending, didn't you? Where you think Batman has sacrificed himself, and then you get that little bit at the end where he winks at Alfred and he survived and all that, which personally for me I thought was a bit of a cop out. I was like, I thought Batman dying there would have been the perfect answer, and I think Bond has done what that film should have done, and I think if we'd have seen that he maybe survived in some way or it was left ambiguous, I definitely wouldn't want an ambiguous ending. No, definitely wouldn't want that. I think I don't like being left for me to choose what I think happened. I never like that. When you get that in a movie or a TV show, I hate that because I want to know what did happen, not what I think happened.
Yeah. What about if Bond washed up on the beach somewhere? You just see his body on the sand or whatever.
Well, then you know he's lived, because you wouldn't even show that. And then obviously Bond 26 is the man with the golden gun coming back, after being brainwashed and amnesia and all that kind of stuff. But so I think it's the right ending for Daniel, and it's a brave ending for Daniel. And ultimately, I think where the problem lies, man, is that these films aren't made anywhere near as often as they should be made. And when you consider that we had, 2 Bond films in the 2010s, and
that's crazy, isn't it?
And we had to wait 6 years for this, and we've got no idea when the next one's coming. I can understand people being really fucking gutted with this, because it's not like we've got the next one showing up 2 years down the line like it used to, So I think it's the right ending for Daniel's run. It will definitely be remembered. It will definitely be talked about for years and years to come, and debated for years and years to come whether it was the right thing. And ultimately, the next dude, the 007th 007, is waiting in the wings somewhere. Maybe he knows. Maybe he already knows. Maybe it's already
been in touch
deal.
with you already?
She has. I just wanted to reveal it today.
Oh, sorry.
I'm going up for the villain, man. That's me. I've got my laugh and everything sorted. But maybe he already knows. Maybe it's already, he's had the wink of like, it's going to be you. Maybe it's Henry. Maybe it's Cavill, and he that's going to be the next one. Maybe they haven't even started looking yet.
Maybe it's Jean Page, whatever his name is.
Reggae Jean Page. If it was me, if I was the heir to the Bond throne, if I was Barbara, there's no way I wouldn't at least be having a little look. I'd be having a little look and see who's about, and I'd have somebody in the back of my mind that thinks, okay, he's my current favorite. Absolutely 100%. So, the question for you now, Chris, to finish off today's episode.
I've got a few more quick.
Oh, you do? All right, go on. Sorry, I'm being rude. I'm go on. Give me your question.
Firstly, I was going to say, Barbara, how obviously she's so super close with Daniel. I wonder if she's asked him, who do you think could be the next Bond?
That's a good point.
To get hit, because she's obviously a huge fan of his, and wondering what he thinks.
Yeah.
A couple of things I want to say. Firstly, I totally agree with you. Absolutely brave with what they've done. I concur. This was a perfect way for Daniel's Bond to go out. Mm-hmm. I think his tenure, it's separate to the other Bonds in my eyes, at least. And I think, I just think that was great. I thought it was definitely the right thing to do, but people are out there who are still saying that he might not be dead. Tom, can you? So I just thought we could have a little chat about that, because in my eyes, I watched the film. I saw a missile strike take out the island and take out Bond. But there are people who say, no, this is Bond. He doesn't die. He has survived. He has found a way. Trust you, me. He has found a way. So I'd just like to get your thoughts, Tommy, on what you think to people who think Daniel might be alive still, because perhaps he is.
Said in the most polite way I can possibly think of. Total bollocks. There's just, I saw that missile go right into his face, and it's like, that's it, and you see his vital signs go and all the rest of it. He's gone. I mean, let's think about it here. Daniel definitely wanted that hard end for the end of his thing. He doesn't want people bugging him saying, you're going to do another one, for the however many years it takes for them to make another one. He's dead. It's like, there's no question about it. I think it's bananas to think anything else. It really is. There would have been some kind of hint. I've seen some people say that they think Moneypenny looks a bit shifty in that last sequence, like she knows something. Moneypenny knows. She's not going to say anything, but she knows.
She knows, does she?
Bananas. It's just craziness. Yeah, it would cheapen everything if he survived it. You know, it's 100%. I would put money on the fact that that's not the case.
Good. And the other thing is, obviously, you were saying before about people. This isn't their Bond. This isn't what they come to watch Bond, is to see this sort of type of film. You got to remember, this has happened only kind of once before with Majesties in terms of the downbeat. This isn't going to happen every single Bond film. In fact, it probably won't happen again
ever.
ever, or well, not this type scenario, but anything like that for a long time. So it's not like this is the way that Bond is now going to go. Every film he's going to die or something, because obviously they can't do that. But so people have to, I think, bear that in mind. This is a one-off or very, very rare type thing, and incredibly brave. And I just think it was the right thing. Like what you said about Batman, how you were a bit miffed that he survived. If they'd done that in this film, you'd have thought exactly the same, wouldn't you?
Exactly. That would have been a bit of a wishy-washy way out of it.
So definitely right. So finally, then, just before we go, obviously we'll probably come to this at some point with a Daniel retrospective further down the line. But Daniel's tenure as Bond, Casino through to No Time to Die, what he's brought to the role and where you think his films sit within the series. Big plus, not bad, not sure, don't like him. Where are you?
Don't like him.
Don't like him, right, at all. No film. No.
All of it, rubbish. No, I think he's probably the most important Bond we've had in decades. Like he's turned everything around and made Bond something it hasn't been since the 60s in terms of critical acclaim as well as box office.
And bringing Oscar-winning directors, Oscar-winning cast and everything like that on board as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The business. What about you?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think because I know, obviously we mentioned before, Dobson's not a fan of the Craig and quite a few others because we've had the Rogue, we've had that story arc running through. But I think he's been brilliant. I think he's been absolutely amazing, Daniel Craig, and his tenure is been outstanding. And I just think the last 16 years or whatever it's been has been incredible. Obviously, would have loved to have had more films. But I think he's been brilliant, absolutely superb, and. I guess in a future podcast we'll be talking about what might come next.
Exactly. Well, that was going to be my question before you hijacked me.
Right. Let's go on.
Just briefly, because obviously you might have noticed I'm
getting darker and
the light switch is right across the room. And I'm not going to go up and get it, so I just turned the little torch on my phone on.
Oh, there we go. That's good. You're getting all Blofeld on me.
I know what I want.
Yeah.
Right. I want to know what you want. What do you want to see from Bond number 007?
So what I've heard is going to be a 60s set Bond, period piece set in the 60s.
Right. Now you say that. A lot of people ridicule that as if that's a ridiculous statement. But I've heard that from several different people now who are close enough to the world of Bond. Yeah. Obviously won't know many names, but I've heard that the idea is the next one will be a 60s period Bond from several different people who are in the world of Eon Productions. Not that they work there, but they're in that world, that space. Which makes me, and I normally would say, no, there's no way they would ever do that. Look at Cubby, Bond always moves forward, so he never goes backwards and all that. But the fact that we've heard that several times from several different sources like that makes me go, because I do suspect that
it's a perfect time to do it if they were going to do it after Daniel's Bond.
Well, because I do wonder whether they're stuck for like, shit, what do we do to reinvent this with the next guy? Because Daniel has been so successful. What do we do? And that would be a way to completely do something different and separate it. My question to you is though, is that a bit leaning into pastiche? Do you know what I mean? Is it the wrong move?
Like
is that
Timothy
step
Dalton would
backwards?
tell you, wouldn't he? Is it the pastiche?
It's for your bloody kids.
Yeah, I don't. The thing is, if they do it right, it is going to be a genius idea. Look at Casino. Oh, we can't do a film with Bond starting off again. That'd never work. That's a ludicrous idea. They pull that out of the bag, and it's the best Bond film ever made, pretty much. It's like if it works and if it's done right, then I've got no problem with it at all. Yeah, and in this current scenario, there's so much things that you've mentioned before about technology, or everyone can do anything on their mobile phone. Everyone can hack everyone with all these computer stuff. And if I'm honest, in the last few Daniels, it's all been quite similar with the computer hacking of Silver. You've got Spectre's surveillance. I know this one is the virus nanobot, but it's also computer sort of computerized.
It's
and
techno spies.
And there's only so much of that you can do without running out of ideas. Set it in the 60s. You don't have to worry about mobile phones. You've got like proper serious 60s spy gadget shit going on. And if it's done right, and you've got classic looks, the cars, everything, the 60s would be amazing. So if it goes down that, I'm 100% behind that. I think that would be great. Depends on, would they still mine some of the Fleming stuff with, and how would they do that? That would be the intriguing part as to how they're going to do that. If all this is smoke and mirrors and the new Bond comes in and it's contemporary, I've got no issue with that as well. It's so long as they get the good script and they make a good film. That is all that I care about, really.
All right,
so
nice.
Yeah,
all right.
We'll see.
I'd definitely be curious about period Bond. I'd be worried, like you say, it's how they do it. I'd be worried that it would be a bit pastiche-y, a bit too Austin Powers, maybe.
I think they'd modernize it in terms of language, so they wouldn't have the sexism wouldn't come back into it. I think they'd they'd take sorry Tom, they take the kind of the way that the Daniel films, how they've progressed on that side of things, what they've brought to the franchise. I think they'd keep that level in terms of how it is, but set it in the 60s with everything else. Then I'd imagine that's how it'd go, because I don't think
I'm going to tell you what I want, right? Whether it's modern day Bond, whether it's period Bond, whatever it is.
I bet I could guess.
Right? Okay, I'm going to hold that thought, and I'm going to tell you what I want, and I want it badly. And this was discussed in a message between me and Dobson. I want a hybrid pre-title sequence, a hybrid of The Living Daylights and GoldenEye to introduce my new Bond. I don't want to see his face. I do not want to see his face until the perfect reveal moment when he turns to the camera and that's our new man. That if the rest of the film is dog shit, I won't care as long as I get that. I want a sneaky Bond pre-title sequence. I don't care if it's 60s, modern day, don't care about anything else, and I don't want to see his face. As long as I get that, I'm happy.
You're happy,
that's it.
I thought you were going to mention something about the ladies' man, but okay, there we go.
Well, that too. Yeah, I definitely want that. 100%. The old school dick swinging Bond, man.
And what about big bass at the end with all the goodies versus all the baddies?
I do want that as well. Yeah, you're doing well here, man, because you're incepting my brain. Yeah. I want all of those things, man. And I think one of the reasons I love Spectre as much as I do is because for the first time in years, we had a Bond that was fun again. Do you know what I mean? And it wasn't leaning on, oh, I'm an orphan. Oh, I'm a bit grumpy because of this. Or, it's like you see so many pictures of Daniel in Bond and he's got like a scowl on his face and he's a bit grumpy and he's a bit pissed off.
Like the poster for No Time to Die.
Like the poster for No Time to Die. I want a Bond who's in the absolute prime of his life. He's not moody. He's not downtrodden. He's not upset by something. He's just a motherfucking badass at the top of his game. And that's what I get in Spectre. And that's one of the reasons why I absolutely love that film, man. The way he walks across that rooftop gives me a stonking boner, Chris. And I want my next Bond to be like that throughout the whole fucking film. Right? Is that too much to bloody ask?
I don't think so. No,
right,
I definitely want a standalone as well. A standalone. Let's not do.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because here's another question for you. Then,
right. Okay.
Now, when I grew up, right, back in the day when I was a young boy,
last week,
I would watch things like Star Trek: The Next Generation, The X-Files, and all of these shows, all of which the style of the time was you had standalone episodes, standalone stories every time. And then maybe once or twice in the season, they do a 2-parter or maybe a 3-parter. And that was exciting because those multi-part ones typically had a thread that followed through all of them. So, there'd be a bigger story there, but that was a rarity. Nowadays, everything is a continued story, multi-episode arcs, multi-movie arcs. You very rarely get a standalone movie these days. And I wonder whether that's just the sign of the times that people don't have standalone pictures like that anymore when it comes to franchise stuff. And do you think the next dude will have some sort of ongoing story, or do you think it's going to go back to the old school? Do
you think it can go back to standalone?
I think perhaps the first film will be conceived of as a standalone piece.
Yeah.
But then the ones that follow from that might have a thread. I don't know. What do you think? What does your gut feeling tell you?
I kind of want a standalone film, I think.
Me too.
Well, I do, definitely. But I can't ever see it happening without some sort of little thread going through, maybe. I don't know. But I just want to not have it all linked to. The trouble with the Craig films is the retconning and how they're all meant to be linked together, and you can't do that retrospectively because it just doesn't work. And that's what I don't want to happen with the next Bond actor in the next set of Bond films. I just want them to work perfectly. I don't want them to.
See, that was the mistake with Star Wars as well, wasn't it? It was like JJ set it up perfectly. They didn't. The second dude took it in a whole different direction, and then he tried to repair it and bring it back in. I think if they're going to do it, plan the whole arc from the start, so we know what's happening from day one to film number 5 or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's the only way they can do it if they do it with a story arc, at least to do it properly.
All right, lots of interesting discussion today.
I know. Yeah. Should we give everyone the shout out for the 90-second review again?
Let's do that. Yes. So obviously next week we will be doing a 90-second review episode. If you are new around these parts, that's basically where everybody phones in a voicemail giving their review in 90 seconds, and we stitch them all together into one big episode so we can hear the voice of the JBR family speak with your thoughts. So the way you do that is you go to jamesbondradio.com. Over on the right-hand side is a floating button that says send voicemail. You click that bad boy, you send your message right through your phone or your computer, and we will play it on the show next week.
Indeed, yeah. So that's week 3 done and dusted. Yeah, we've got one more week to go, Tom.
One more week to go, mate.
That's it. And that'll be the 30 days and no time to die.
Indeed. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure, man. I feel like we've got a lot off our chests with the last 3 weeks, and it's going to be interesting next week when we turn it over to the rest of Team JBR. We're going to do some round table action and
do a mailbag episode as well.
A few mailbag episodes, maybe one or two of those, and see what the wider world thinks of No Time to Die. So until then, we will see you on Monday. I've been Tom Sears.
I've been Chris Wright, and we'll
JBR.
see you next week.
All right, then. We'll see you.
We'll return then.
All right, then. See you on
Cheers,
Monday.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Hope you enjoyed the show. Good night.